We launched 350 new private label products in just 11 months and sold about $10 million on Amazon that year.
Welcome to the Post-Purchase Pro Podcast.
This is the only podcast that dives deep into post-purchase marketing to help Amazon sellers increase sales, ranking, reviews, and profits. It's everything that happens after the initial sale that makes a difference. We call this the back end. This is the Post-Purchase Pro Podcast, episode 23.
Guys, so excited for part 3 of our origin story. We're going to try to do 2 more here, making it a total of 5 parts. If you remember from the last episode, we are entering 2015. This is a wild year for us. We actually launched about a product per business day, actually more than that. We're going to get into some of those details, but if you haven't caught the first 2 episodes yet, skip back to episode 21 and 22. You're going to love it, and it'll give you the context of where we are now. You know, going into 2015, we were riding high because in 2014, we had just finished a pretty good year, Shawn.
Yeah, of course. You know, Russell Brunson always says that your mess becomes your message, and oh boy, did we have a mess. But obviously, we're going to get into some of that. In 2014, we had just finished our first full year and did about $3 million in sales in 2014. So, you know, we were moving into 2015 and feeling pretty darn good about it, really, because, you know, when we had first approached Amazon, Seth, if you remember, we didn't realize how I don't want to say easy, but how quickly we could get started and get optimized and start seeing some real gains. So, needless to say, Seth, we were super excited entering 2015 because we just pocketed $3 million in sales. We had our systems in place. We were ready to go like gangbusters, weren't we, buddy?
Oh yeah. So we get to the end of 2014 and we sit down with our, small group of trusted advisors, like you said, Shawn, and we plan to do $50 million in sales for 2015. So we launched 90 products in 2014. If we're going to do 50 million, we've got to do way more than that. So we set the goal of launching a product per day. So 65 products was our goal. Don't even take a day off, just launch 365 products and we're going to do $50 million. And so we didn't really hit $50 million, but we did grow from 3 million to 10 million in that second year. That's our second year on Amazon. And we learned a ton of stuff that we're going to be sharing with you guys that we should not have been doing. The wins that we had, well, we got to sell our first business. We learned about the power of owning our own audience and being able to send emails and what that did for us. So guys, we're going to be sharing a lot. Super excited. Shawn?
Of course, like you said, Seth, we did fall short of our $50 million goal that I promised in the last episode. Remember our steering committee, our advisory board, that's the proposal that we gave them, right? $50 million. But like I said, we did finish the year strong and collected some really valuable intel that we're going to share with you here. We launched 350 new private label products in our just 11 months and sold about $10 million on Amazon that year. So some of the pitfalls, some of the wins, several of the losses, that's what we want to lay out for you here. There's some funny stories that happened in 2015, especially like some of the crazy products that I came up with. Remember the bottle cutter, the penis stretcher, the this and that. When you're tasked, believe me, when Seth says, hey, we're going to do, 1 product per day on average for this year, and it's up to me to go find these opportunities, source these opportunities, have samples delivered, and then make orders, that's a tall task, isn't it, Seth?
Oh, man. So, guys, just for some insight into how we structured our business, Shawn basically was head over product discovery, which, finding new products to sell and then handing it off to our sourcing team and managing that process. So every week I would get a box of samples delivered to the office there in Indianapolis. And my job was to take the box of samples and then to work with our team to build listings, to get everything on the Amazon side ready, to set up all the ads, to set up launches, all of the Amazon stuff. That was my job. So every week, the box of samples wasn't really a box of samples. It was an indication of what Shawn had found, that we had 1,000 units on the way from China. And so through all of that, we learned a ton. We had experience on almost every category imaginable. Shawn's giving you some insight into the wacky products that he would find, and some of the ones that we would test and launch that Shawn had found, we would think, oh, this product's never going to work. But for whatever reason, we would find a little pocket of opportunity. And then, like we told you, our business model is finding the opportunity and then building a brand around it. So if we found, for instance, one of the products that we launched that did really well that Shawn found was a weighted hula hoop. Product sold very well, and we built a fitness brand around that particular opportunity. But in 2015, Shawn, we actually finally got to discover how powerful that concept was that Charlie showed us in the last episode of controlling our own audience. So in the last episode, we shared that Charles Livingston shared with us how valuable email marketing was for his business and actually plugged it in to what we were doing and got like amazing results. So we were like, wow, this is amazing. In 2015, we were able to leverage that on every single one of our launches. So it really kind of showed us the power of when you can send an email and generate traffic and generate ranking and generate sales on Amazon. Now Amazon looks a little easier than when we would run into people at a conference, right, Shawn?
Oh man, as it turns out, we were collecting massive amounts of email addresses that we wanted to use for, soliciting reviews. Now we call it a warranty registration, and you're familiar with that. You buy a product, fill in the warranty registration card, send it in. So we were sitting on this list that we were using for review requests when Charlie said, hey guys, that is a literal gold mine right there. And I think the very first email that you and Charlie created together went out, did like how much in sales, Seth?
It was like $20,000 in just a few hours.
In additional sales on Amazon.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just from the email.
It was crazy. So, one thing led to another, and fast forwarding through 2015, because this is number 3 of 5 for the origin story. It's important that we talk about how we first began coaching and helping other sellers. So, Seth, it come time for me to go to China. Seth said, hey, you got to go to China, source some more products. And how did that work out, Seth?
Well, I love telling this story, Shawn. So, 2015, we have the goal launching 365 products. To do all that sourcing, that's tough when you're sending an email through Alibaba or trying to talk to a Chinese sourcing agent, getting, multiple days of lag in between each message. So it's tough. So we're like, Shawn, you need to go to China. I look up a flight on Google and it's $800. And he's like, I'm 6'7". That's not really going to cut it. I can't ride $800 to China. He's like, that's coach. Can't fit back there. He's like, it's going to be about 10 grand, $10,000 first class ticket to China. I was like, Shawn, we're a new company. I don't know. $10,000 on a plane ticket seems kind of high. And so Shawn puts his thinking cap on and he comes up with the idea. And he's like, hey, I'm going to bring a couple people with us and we'll charge them a little bit and we'll teach them how to source in China and it'll cover the cost of the plane ticket. And so I think, I don't even remember the exact numbers, but it was like 10 people came with us, and then the next time Shawn went, it was like 20, and then 50, and then 100, and then 250 people are with us in China. Fill in my gaps here.
Yeah, it was a great idea, and the idea, like I said, was to cover the cost of that first class ticket, because obviously I'm not going to fly for 27 hours, and coach at 6'6", not 6'7". You like to stretch the truth a little, but that's fine. I'll take it. I'll be 6'7". So the idea was we're going to charge, $2,500 per person, and I'll bring 4 people with me. So while I'm sourcing in China, I'll plug those 4 people into my strategies and my contacts and teach them other Amazon sellers, because what we had started was a small meetup group in Indianapolis called Amazon Sellers Alliance. I think they've changed the name since when I turned it over to someone else. But that small group of people would meet once a month, and we would talk about the strategies that we were using in growing our business. Just 100% free, just trying to create a network. So I tapped that network, asking for 4 volunteers who were interested to go to China and learn from someone who'd been sourcing in China for several years, so that they can use China as a place to source their Amazon launches. So those 4 people quickly turned into 10, and then those 10 people wanted to invite a few friends and whatnot. So that very first trip, our initial idea was to bring 4 people at $2,500 to pay for my $10,000 flight. We had 40 people in China that very first trip. So we had struck a nerve. And the big aha moment for us, Seth, I mean, while I'm sitting in China and you're comfortably in the office in Indiana, is that early trip, we had these mastermind meetings after each day that we'd spend sourcing in the marketplace. And I was sharing, just dropping these bombs on people about how we were making huge headway in our Amazon business. And it became apparent, Seth, that we were sitting on a wealth of knowledge because you and I had never went through any formal Amazon seller training. Like everyone else was buying Amazing Selling Machine, which is a great program. But Seth and I never went through any of that type of program. So we were forced, more or less, to create our own tools and our own concepts. And a lot of this stuff were proprietary and brought in from our past businesses. So when I started sharing this stuff, it was like apparent to me that people are like, wow, I never thought about that. You guys do everything different. Why don't I do it this way? What are the results? Can you help me get started in my business? So after that trip, we decided to start coaching other sellers systematically on our amazing, successful, yet often unorthodox methods to growing our business. Seth?
Yeah, that's one way to put it for sure. That's funny. So I remember, Shawn, one of the things, you're sitting there with all these people and they're loving being in China because they're getting better pricing. They finally have a relationship with their supplier and they're like, this is amazing. When you have these conversations with these people, it's like so incredible that I have this resource in my business. But when I get back home, I have to produce sales. I have to, like you said, make headway in my business. I have to rank. I have to get reviews. And at this point, I think, we're probably 500 products in. So we have way more experience than most people had we took it very seriously. You're launching a product a day, you get some repetitions. You kind of pick up what works and what doesn't. Otherwise, you're kind of slow, right? If you do that 500 times and you still don't know what works, something's wrong. So anyways, we start coaching these people and helping them through their business. And then by that process, it kind of refines it even further. So not only are we getting all the repetitions of launching all of our own products, but we're getting reps by helping other sellers do it in their business. And then what becomes really amazing, Shawn, is when other sellers start sharing back, what they are experiencing. And now you get this amazing effect where it's kind of like a worldwide mastermind of everybody running their own little lab test and reporting back the best results. Remember that?
Exactly. And, going back to China, that was March of 2015. March of 2015. And what we didn't realize at the time was we were creating an instant classic because those groups just got bigger and bigger and more robust and more was shared. And obviously it led to us creating, like you said, a community of sellers for sharing. So the one thing, and I want you to take away from this podcast if you're listening to it, the one thing that set us completely apart from every other seller was our direct response background. That was the biggest difference. Direct response marketing. And when we plug direct response marketing into our Amazon business in multiple ways, that really, really launched us into some amazing successes and very, very early wins in our career. Now, we'll be digging into this in episode number 24, which we're going to release next week. But go ahead and like and subscribe. Share with friends if you found valuable content in our podcast. If not, please let us know. This has been the Post-Purchase Podcast, episode number 23. Subscribe to this podcast. Leave us a review so we know how we're doing. And we hope to see you next episode. Take care.